I'm laying in bed not napping because I have a class tonight and I don't want to mess up my makeup. But I'm realizing that I never told the story of Hagar and Ishmael yesterday the way I promised I would tell the story of Hagar and Ishmael. And it's a story that I've been reflecting on a lot lately because it feels super relevant to the present for a couple of reasons. So if you grew up in Catholicism or Christianity and you had to go to religion classes regularly, you are probably familiar with Abraham. And if you're not, Abraham is often considered the father, the patriarch of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Abraham was married to Sarah, and Sarah had an enslaved woman in her service named Hagar, and Hagar was from Egypt. Abraham and Sarah were thought to be really old, extremely old, right? But Abraham had this prophecy that from God that he was supposed to be the father of the future generations, the father of Israel. And that we don't mean Israel, the ethno-state that's occupying Palestine, but rather Israel in a biblical sense, right? And you know who has a really good post about the different types of Israel is Jew Witches on their IG. But anyway, Abraham's supposed to be the father of Israel, but he and his wife are up there in years, like in the hundreds, right? So Sarah can't conceive a child on her own because of her age. So Sarah gives Hagar, an enslaved woman, to Abraham and says, you can have her so that she can bear a son for you. So already we have this like issue of consent between an enslaved woman and an older man. So Hagar does get pregnant and gives birth to a son for Abraham, and his name is Ishmael. And Sarah is immediately jealous. Sarah's immediately jealous because Abraham loves his son. Which, again, like the context in which this son was conceived and born, already icky. So then eventually, by some miracle, Sarah becomes pregnant herself. Sarah becomes pregnant herself and gives birth to Isaac. And Isaac goes on to become the inheritor, the heir of Abraham's legacy. And there's a passage in the Bible about a young Ishmael who's teasing the baby Isaac. And depending on which interpretation you look at, some might say that it was like malicious, but others say like he was just being a kid. Like he was just being a kid with his sibling, right? So Sarah immediately decides that Ishmael and Hagar are a problem and they need to be banished. So Abraham's like, sure, no problem. I'm going to banish this woman who did not consensually bear me my first son that you asked for, Sarah. And so he did. And Hagar and Ishmael wandered the desert. A theme, right? Hagar and Ishmael wandered the desert, and they wandered and wandered. They ran out of food. They were trying to go back. Some people say they're trying to go back to Egypt, where Hagar is supposedly from. But they wander and they run out of food. They run out of water, and they're starving. They're thirsty, wandering this desert. And Hagar is just like fucking devastated, right? Just devastated. And she's like, I have already been through so much, and I can't bring myself to watch my child die or for my child to see me die. So Hagar sets Ishmael down a little distance away from her, and she moves away from him and just starts to weep and cry out to the heavens, like, what the fuck, bro? Like, what is going on? What did I do wrong? And an angel comes down and says that God has heard Hagar's cries, and in front of her appears a well or a fountain, depending on which interpretation you're reading. And Hagar is immediately overjoyed and fills her pouch and her sons with water and begins to give him water and gives herself water. And because of this miracle, she and Ishmael are able to continue on their journey to home, wherever that is. And in biblical theory, like, Isaac goes on to be the father of Israel, and Ishmael goes on to be the father of Islam, or the Ishmael, like the Ishmaelites, which some consider like the biblical ancestors of Arabs. And I just have been thinking so much about this story as we sit and watch state-sanctioned genocide happening in Palestine, this holy land, this womb of human life, and how we are seeing Palestinians put up tents and wander the desert as their homes are destroyed for nothing they did. They didn't do anything. Not that anyone deserves it. Like, there's no deserving genocide. And I also think of, in the US, because that's where I live, that's the context of existence that I can speak to and relate to, like how hard life is right now for so many people. Like paying bills, buying groceries, putting gas in our car, being able to afford going to the doctor. Like, it's fucking hard right now for so many of us. So many people that I talk to regularly are struggling, whether they're working conventional jobs or they have their own businesses. Like, folks are fucking struggling. And as I was meditating on the story of Ishmael and Hagar in the car recently, an affirmation that came to me was, good spirits, bring us a well in this desert. Good spirits, bring us a well in this desert. And along with that, a reminder of the potency of our prayers when expressed in authenticity and regularity, consistency. So that's a prayer that I've been saying for myself and for my loved ones, my community members, quite a lot lately. It's only a couple words, but they're the words that feel right. Good spirits, Creator, please bring us a well in this please bring us a well in this desert. Whether that well is greater access to resource, greater access to opportunity, greater access to community, greater access to rest, greater access to health, greater access to ancestral lands, to life free from being constantly bombed and displaced for people in Palestine and Sudan and Congo. And maybe the well here is relief from the overwhelming pressure of late-stage capitalism, relief from state-sanctioned violence against Black people and brown people, relief from the constant fear that our children are not safe at school. So yeah, that's a prayer that's been bringing me, I guess, some purpose. I don't know about comfort yet, but something to focus on, right? Something to do. Good spirits grant us a well in this desert, and it's been helpful for me, and maybe it will be helpful for you. I was going to share this story as a reel, but I wasn't sure if I could sum it up with all my feelings in 90 seconds or less. But yeah, that's the story of Ishmael and Hagar, and I don't know. I invite you to meditate on it too. Bye, everyone.